Good morning. I'm Joe McNally, the acting United States Attorney here in Los Angeles. Today, we're here to announce federal criminal charges against Eugene Henley Jr., a career criminal known as Big U, who used his contacts and leadership role in the Crips Street Gang, the entertainment industry, and a youth charity to further his own criminal enterprise, an enterprise that engaged in murder, extortion, robbery, human trafficking, COVID fraud, and other felonies. Mr. Henley and several other individuals linked to him and his criminal enterprise were charged in a criminal complaint with federal racketeering conspiracy. Mr. Henley is a fugitive and he is currently wanted by federal law enforcement. Other individuals linked to his criminal enterprise were arrested today, approximately 10 defendants who are charged in various indictments. Again, Mr. Henley is a fugitive. 4 defendants are in state custody and will be transferred into federal custody, and we are still seeking Mr. Henley and another fugitive. The Department of Justice's top priority is eliminating violent crime caused by criminal street gangs and organized crime. These organizations cause a tremendous amount of harm in our communities. And today's arrests are part of our office's efforts, FBI, IRS, LAPD, the team you see up here, to make our communities safer and rid our streets of these criminal street gangs, including ones operated by violent felons like Mr. Henley, who are posing as savvy businessmen and community leaders, but in the end are violent criminals. The affidavit filed with the criminal complaint alleges that Mr. Henley operated Big U Enterprises, a mafia-like organization that utilized Mr. Henley's stature and long-standing association with the Crips Criminal Street Gang and other gangs here in Los Angeles to intimidate businesses and individuals in our communities. I want to stress that the allegations here in the complaint are allegations only, and the defendants are presumed innocent until proven otherwise. Let me talk a little bit about Mr. Henley and the street gang here. As I said, Mr. Henley is a widely known leader within the Rollin 60s. He rose to prominence in that gang decades ago, and he has since been a fixture on the internet, talk shows, and podcasts, all things that law enforcement have looked at closely as part of this investigation. He has maintained the image of an entertainment industry entrepreneur running a music label and of somebody who gives back to the community here in Los Angeles, funding a South LA-based charity, developing options, which purports to help at youth risk escape gang life and escape the perils of gangs in high crime areas. The facts alleged in the complaint paint a very different picture. It is one of a murderer, a thief, a liar, and a cheat, and the criminals that enabled him. For example, Mr. Henley engaged in a murder of a musician signed to his label in 2021 and dumped the victim's body in Las Vegas off of the I-15 freeway. He then attempted to evade and obstruct the investigation into the murder, including ordering witnesses not to speak with law enforcement. Henley's criminal enterprise also engaged in other crimes, including transporting prostitutes across state lines, extorting strip clubs, marijuana dispensaries, and other businesses, and fraudulently applying for COVID loans in the form of a business relief loan. On that application, Mr. Henley falsely stated that his music label, Unique Music, operated at a $200,000 profit in 2019 and was entitled to government assistance, despite the reality that the company had operated at a loss and was ineligible for such relief. Finally, Mr. Henley is accused of embezzling donations made by celebrities, professional athletes, and businesses to his charity, Developing Options, which, as I said, purports to give South LA at-risk youth alternatives to gang violence, drugs, and other criminal activity. Henley used this charity as a front. He used it to conceal his fraudulent activities, his criminal enterprises activities, and evade detection from law enforcement. If convicted on the racketeering conspiracy, he and his co-conspirators face approximately a 20-year federal prison sentence. I want to thank our federal law enforcement partners, our state law enforcement partners, who brought about the result here today. The Los Angeles Metropolitan Gang Task Force from the FBI is comprised of FBI agents, LAPD officers, IRS Criminal Investigation, the U.S. Department of Justice Inspector General's Office, Los Angeles Police Department, the North Las Vegas Police Department. This case is a great example of state and federal law enforcement working together to address harm from a criminal enterprise. I also want to thank our prosecutors, Assistant U.S. Attorneys Kevin Butler and Jenna McCabe, for their diligence and dogged determination in this case. With that, I'll turn it over to our next speaker, FBI Special Agent in Charge, Ted Dox.
Thank you, Joe. Absolutely. My name is Ted Dox, Special Agent in Charge of FBI Los Angeles' Criminal Division. These operations are truly a team effort, and I would like to recognize those partnerships. If not for their commitment, dedication, and follow-through, we would not be here today. First, I'd like to thank LAPD, IRS Criminal Investigations, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for working collaboratively for the past 4 years, in this case with FBI Los Angeles Metropolitan Task Force on violent gangs. I'd also like to thank the U.S. Marshal Service for their assistance today, and many departments in California, Arizona, Nevada, and the North Las Vegas Police Department. Now, this morning, hundreds of agents and officers, including multiple SWAT teams, executed multiple arrest warrants for many of the 19 defendants charged in this case. Search warrants were executed at 6 locations. Those searches continue to be underway. 4 of the 19 defendants were already in custody, and 10 defendants were taken into custody in the last 24 hours. And while we're still seeking the whereabouts of 5 individuals, 3 of whom we believe we will have in custody shortly, 2 defendants are considered fugitives. They are Eugene Henley Jr., also known as Big U, and Brian Mejia. We will provide their photographs to the media following this announcement. Anyone with information as to their whereabouts should not take action on their own, but contact the FBI. You can reach us by calling 1-800-CALL-FBI. During this investigation, we recovered 49 weapons, 5 pounds of methamphetamines, 10,000 fentanyl pills, and large amounts of cash. The Rollin 16 Crips have been around for decades, and by some estimates are among the largest gangs in the country, with factions in multiple states. Mr. Henley has been a known member of the Rollin 16 Crips since the 1980s, where he established his reputation and earned standing with fellow gang members. He has been able to use that standing to intimidate businesses and individuals and to commit various forms of violence, including the alleged murder outlined by the U.S. Attorney. He's also been able to influence others to give him money, only to defraud his victims, including defrauding the U.S., the government, the city of Los Angeles, and you, the taxpayer. Before I close, I'd like to ask that anyone who has information about the alleged criminal activity or feel that they have been victimized by any of the defendants, call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. We've targeted this gang in the past and will continue to target gangs who see violence and fear in our communities. The FBI will never waver on our commitment to combat violent gangs and those individuals affiliated who prey on others. Today's arrests make neighborhoods across our city safer. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to IRS SAC Tyler Hatcher.
Good morning. Again, I'm Tyler Hatcher. I'm the Special Agent in Charge of IRS Criminal Investigation here in Los Angeles. Today's arrests are the result of outstanding investigative work by law enforcement partners from LAPD, U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, and my office, who've worked tirelessly to find the evidence necessary to charge those who are alleged to bring harm to our communities, as you've heard previously. The RICO charges against Mr. Henley and his associates reflect a pattern of crimes that runs the gambit from extortion to robbery to murder to tax fraud and to human trafficking, all under the umbrella of a well-organized criminal organization led by Mr. Henley. Additionally, Mr. Henley duped the County of Los Angeles by running a nonprofit named Developing Options, which was set up to pull youth out of the gang life and promote anti-gang solutions. Yet Mr. Henley continued to personally orchestrate violent gang activity that impact our communities. Donors trust that their donations will be used in a manner that's consistent with what the charity was set up to do and applied as intended. In this case, It was for the benefit of at-risk youth. Financial transactions leave a trail, and IRS criminal investigation special agents are the best at following that trail. The trails allegedly lead to Mr. Henley's personal bank account, and the money trail doesn't lie. Organized crime victimizes our Los Angeles communities far too frequently, but the arrests made today demonstrate our commitment to making Los Angeles safer for everyone impacted by these criminal enterprises. IRSCI is proud to partner with our federal and state and local law enforcement partners to make our communities safer and to protect from these violent acts. And on that, I'll turn it over to the Chief. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today. I'll keep my comments brief. From day one, the Los Angeles Police Department's been proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with the FBI and our partners here today in this critical investigation. The invaluable expertise provided by Operation South Bureau FBI Task Force on the Rollin 60s Criminal Street Gang has played a pivotal role in securing these 19 federal indictments laid out this morning. It's a measured step forward in our ongoing fight against gang violence and brings hope and relief to a community that for too long has endured far too much. Together we will continue to protect and serve, working tirelessly to ensure safety in all of our neighborhoods. I'll return the U.S. Attorney, Joe McNally, for any questions follow-up.
We'll take any questions.
So Henley is still on the loose?
He is.
Do you expect to snag him today, or is this something where he's gone?
Yeah, I think all I can say is that look, he is the leader here, and we're looking for him and trying to find him. He's a fugitive at this point, and we're using resources to try to track him down.
Yeah.
When were all the other arrests made?
The arrests were made this morning, early this morning.
And that's of the more than this whole group here that's in custody, or?
So there were a number of arrests, I think roughly 10 this morning, and then there are other individuals who were in state custody that are being transferred into federal custody. But approximately 10 arrests were made this morning.
I think you mentioned it earlier, but what kind of penalties or time in prison are these people facing?
So a federal racketeering conspiracy complaint that's charged here, 1962D, covers up to 20 years in federal prison. The next stage here would be that Mr. Henley and others would be indicted by a grand jury, and the penalties at that point could range and include higher penalties. So at this point, he's charged in a criminal complaint.
Is he charged with murder too, as well? Or
He's
not?
charged in a RICO conspiracy, and part of that RICO conspiracy, one of the predicate acts is the murder that is described in the complaint. He has not yet charged in an indictment with substantive murder.
You mentioned the taxpayers were defrauded. Can you tell us how much taxpayer dollars he obtained from what city leader or official? And what does this mean for groups that are working on anti-gang efforts and trying to get donations from celebrities or city agencies?
Sure. So I think just to kind of go back, Mr. Henley and the allegations are here, operated a criminal enterprise. He used his status in LA as a gang member, somebody who was known as an enforcer, in order to execute the crimes that are described in the criminal complaint. As part of that, and to get to your question, he also had this charity and held himself out there to be somebody who was committed to reducing gang violence, committed to supporting youth in the city. As part of that, he received grants from government agencies to do that work. And as we describe in the criminal complaint, he used that goodwill to benefit himself. He diverted money from that charity and lined his own pockets with it, and that money was ultimately traced, and that we can show that he used it for personal purposes. So there was an embezzlement angle to this, to the criminal enterprise, where hundreds of thousands of dollars were siphoned off that should have gone to charitable purposes, gang reduction, gang intervention. Instead, he used it for his own purposes, his own criminal enterprise. In addition to that, there was tax loss. And like many of our cases, we ultimately do a financial investigation, and we see that that embezzlement and that siphoning happens often. There's a parallel tax conduct that is also described in the complaint. So you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that the charity ultimately siphoned off for his purposes. It was a charity that he controlled, and again held himself out there to be somebody in our community who was, as Chief McDonnell said, these communities are oftentimes our poorest communities that need intervention the most. They need law enforcement the most. He held himself out as somebody who was part of that team trying to improve South Los Angeles. And the facts in the indictment and the wiretap calls that we intercepted as part of the investigation that are described in the complaint, not the indictment, the complaint, describe that contradiction. That on the one hand he's Mr. Charity, and on the other hand he's engaging in all this criminal conduct. That's set out in the criminal complaint.
And so it's outlined in the criminal complaint specifically what government agency gave him money?
It's outlined that he got grant money. I believe that money flowed through the city of Los Angeles, but I don't have the specifics in front of me. What I can tell you is that typically, grants flow through the state and then eventually, are typically issued through the city.
And to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Did you say the name of the charity? Are you allowed to say that? And maybe
Yeah,
the people
the
who
charity
work
I referenced earlier is developing options. Developing options.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Can I just ask one more quick follow-up?
Last question.
I apologize. Just your efforts to find Mr. Henley. Have you had it? I mean, do you have any idea about his potential whereabouts, or any more that you can tell us on this?
No, other than he's a fugitive, and he's being sought by law enforcement, and we're obviously looking for him as we would any fugitive who's engaged in the type of conduct that's alleged here.
Believed to be in Southern California, no idea.
We believe that he may be in Southern California, and for that reason we're providing his picture and encourage anybody to contact the FBI who knows his whereabouts.